Last week, to try and make sense of an inconceivable loss, we pointed to a very simple act a young woman was doing when she was murdered by a man. Social media platforms ignited with a simple phrase: she was just going for a run. It reminded me of the everyday acts that other women in this country were carrying out as they were murdered at the hands of men. She was just walking from work. She had just returned from a night out. She was just in her home on Christmas Eve. There are no words that can make this okay for Aisling Murphy or for those that knew and loved her. No words that can make this right for any woman who has experienced the scourge of gender-based violence in public or in private, in their homes or on the streets. It requires political action, much of which has already been discussed or is catered for in the Istanbul Convention or in the UN Safer Cities for Women and Young Girls initiative that remains unfulfilled on government or local authority desks. However, it would be remiss of me to stand here today and not speak on the responsibility of men to end men's violence against women. There is an onus on men to end this scourge. I want to speak to the lies that we as men tell ourselves so that we may be absolved of the blame or complicity in the toxic masculine culture that many of us were formed by. In 2014, Tom Maher wrote of the monster myth, following the murder of his wife Jill in Australia in 2012. In the monster myth, Tom challenged us as men to break our silences on the root societal cause of male violence against women and no longer perpetuate a monster myth that merely places blame on evil individuals as if they operate outside the boundaries of the society in which they were formed. Last week, following the tragic murder of Aisling Murphy, we saw Tom's words enacted once again by men attempting to utter Aisling's killer, as if he operated outside the full spectrum of men's violence against women. We spoke of a violent monster that must be caught. Emphasis was placed on the nationality because that once again allowed us to separate, to utter the killer from the everyday. Hashtag not all men once again came to the fore, as if that hashtag alone didn't cause harm to any woman who's had to look over their shoulder in fear of a man that may approach. To end men's violence against women, we must accept that perpetrators of gender-based violence are socialised by the sexism and the masculinity that typifies our everyday relations, and in turn institutionalises sexism in our culture. And it is crucial that while not all men commit violence, it is usually always a man that is the perpetrator. Men's violence against women is a spectrum. It starts at what may seem as harmless banter with sexist jokes, and it ends with women afraid and hurt in relationships, with random attacks and harassment of women in the street, and with women being killed. Men's violence against women is a spectrum. To truly confront men's violence against women, we need as men not only to call it out, but to understand the spectrum and the excuses we give ourselves to absolve ourselves from that very same culture. Aisling Murphy was killed by a man, albeit one who committed a monstrous act. Women all over this country are being attacked in their homes by men. Just 1 second, Carla. Men must act to break the cycle, challenge it wherever it may be formed, root it out at its source, commit ourselves to never replicating it. Go to Malaga.